And I was already by this point, already by episode 31, almost done episode 31, I was so sick and tired of it and so mad and so upset that I didn't care that I stopped watching it. And I almost did not go back and finish watching it. So why? How did that happen? What happened? Well, I wrote here, it's torture. Torture. Episode 34 of Love of Nirvana paused at 12:52 on October 8th at 2:11 p.m. A little bit of a spoiler. Finally, Pei clued in and admitted it wasn't love, it was obsession. Now let's see what he does with that. But this is torture. How do I still have 6.5 episodes of this bloody drama left? Okay, let's back up a little bit to episode 1. What was it about this drama that was unique and made me love it at first? Okay, quite honestly, it was literally, I saw in a comment, I think it was on my drama list, there was a comment about this character being different, a different role that Jialun was playing, and I halfways agree, halfways don't. Because, like, I cannot remember how the comment worded it, but it made me feel like they were saying he's literally never played a character like this before. That's partially true, partially not. Because as soon as I started this drama, oh, I was going to go right back to the beginning and tell you what it's about. Hold on. When this drama started, like, immediately, I was thinking of Under the Power. Because his character in that one, Lu Yi, and in this one, his character, Wei Zhao, they are the two that I can think of. They're actually very, very similar. However, what made this one unique and stand out and made me like, ooh, like drawn in right off the bat and made me love it so much was the fact that Wei Zhao was kind of even more Lu Yi than Lu Yi was. And I'll get back to that in a second. Let me explain what this story is about. This drama, Love of Nirvana, the main characters of the story are Jiang Ci and Wei Zhao and Pei Yan. These are the main characters of this story. And how it goes, I'm going to call him Wei Zhao. He has 2 different names. Jialun loves to play characters that have more than one identity. That's not a bleed over necessarily, but I mean, it is a trend among him. He loves to play characters that have more than one identity. The other name is Wu Jia, which is very, very similar to Wu Jie. So it just sounds funny all of a sudden. So I'm just gonna call him Wei Zhao, okay? Okay. Where do I start with how to explain what this is? Okay, Jiang Ci, she grew up on the mountain with her master. Her master is basically like her mother. And she grew up there, so like the implication and the whatever of it is that she doesn't know much about the world. She doesn't know much about society. She talks about a town, so she's clearly been around other people. It's not like she's been in 100% seclusion with only her master. She has been around other people because she talks about the town. But at the same time, way later in the story, she mentioned that a lot of people in town didn't treat her well. And I cannot remember why she said that. What it is about her that made them, like, kind of shun her. So she's had a bit of this, like, she's kind of an outcast. It's kind of just her and her master against the world. Like, she's very much like seclusion. But she's kind of tired of that. She wants to go out and explore. She wants some freedom. She wants to go out and do this stuff. Her master doesn't want her to. So then one day she uses this excuse to leave, and the reason her master lets her get away with it, because her master knows that she's trying to leave, and her master's been trying to stop her. But it turns out, it kind of shows you later on, her master has a history, and her history's catching up to her. So she's trying to keep Jiang Ci safe by letting her leave, so that she doesn't get all wrapped up in this. So her master lets her go. So Jiang Ci leaves with the intent of coming back. She specifically wants to go and do, there's 2 things she wants to do. She specifically wants to go and get this specific flower that's in this one location, because she wants to make this specific kind of, I don't know how to say that word, kanji. It's like, anyway, too long. This is all too long. She wants to make the specific thing for her master. So she's got to go and get this ingredient for her master so that she can make it, because you can't make it exactly the way it's meant to be made without this flower. So she wants to go do that. But the other thing she wants to do is she wants to stop at this specific location and see an event. There's a peace treaty going on, because the thing is, there's these two countries, Liang and Wei, and then there's this third city. It's, as far as I can understand, there's like a whole country and a whole country and one little city. It's a little weird that one little city would be such a big deal when it's just one little city. As far as I can understand it, it's not like it's a third country. It's just one city. Yuluo, I think is how you say it, is this one city, and that's where she wants to go to get the flower. But on the way, she stops in Liang, because in Liang, there's this peace treaty that's about to happen between Liang and Wei. So she sneaks into where this peace treaty is happening. She sneaks in and hides in a tree so that she can watch the peace treaty happening. Problem is, the tree that she picks is the tree that Wei Zhao ends up picking. And this is their first meeting. And Wei Zhao's goal, you find out as it backs up and it tells you, he's the one that set up this peace treaty, because his entire life he's been setting something up. He has a specific goal, and that goal is literally the only thing keeping him alive and going. And this is a little bit of a spoiler, but at the same time, you find out most of this fairly quickly. Wei Zhao, his other identity, he is the son of the guy that was the head of this city. I don't know what to call him. I can't remember what they called him. Like a mayor, I guess. What that's all he is, if it's literally just one city, not a country. But he's like the one that was in charge of the city. He was the head of the city. And Wei Zhao and his sister, I forget her name, so I'm just going to call her his sister. These were his only children. So there's the husband and wife and their two children, their son and daughter. The thing is, this is something that made his character very unique. And I need to get into this, but at the same time, Wei Zhao, everything that happened with him, he's had an insanely difficult life so far. And his entire goal, his father was framed for treason. And Wei Zhao's entire family, and when they say entire family, like it's an entire household, so like his mother and his father and all of the servants, everybody that lived within that household. So I forget if they said within this story how many people died. But it's one of those things where, because it's treason, they go in and they wipe out the entire of everybody. Wei Zhao and his sister survive, but the problem is, this is something that made this character very unique and different. I don't think that I've ever seen this in any other story where they took it to this degree. I don't think I've seen it in any other story where it's not just that he was labeled a traitor because his father was a traitor, so his whole family is a traitor. I have seen it how many times where, like, people here and there, specific people, it's a very, very common trope where someone is the son of a traitor or the daughter of a traitor, so they have to keep their identity hidden so that, because the officials will come after them and they'll be in trouble if they find out that they're the son of the traitor or the daughter of a traitor. But I don't think that I've ever seen one where, literally the entire city hates Wei Zhao's guts. The entire city, it shows you, him and his sister, people in the city realize who they are, and they start throwing stones at them and driving them out, and nearly, I think some of the scars on his back were from when they were throwing rocks at them. They were throwing them so hard. I don't think I've ever seen one where it took it to that degree. Even in Burning Flames, he was the son of the head of the city, and yet everything that happened, the entire city didn't hate him. There were people that were loyal to his father still, and therefore loyal to him, and wanting him to come back and bring their city out of the problems that it was in, even though it was kind of his father that caused those problems. That's typically more like what happens in these stories. I believe this is the first story I've ever seen where the entire city hates his guts and wants him dead. They don't want him back. They'd rather kill him than have him come back and help them. They hate him. I don't think I've ever seen an entire city end up hating them like this before. So that's something that made it very unique. And this is something that's really important to me. Really, really important to me is when you present someone in a story and you tell me that this is what they're like, and you give me specific reasons that back this up and make it make sense, that this is what they're supposed to be like, and yet you maybe see a glimmer of it, and then poof, they're never like that again. And this is why I say that Wei Zhao, in a way, is more Lu Yi than Lu Yi was. Because in Under the Power, they told you that Lu Yi, what he's like, they gave you his background, they gave you his job title, they gave you his personality, and they told you that this is what you're going to expect. You saw a glimmer of a glimpse of it at the beginning when he's torturing the guy for information, and you're like, whoa, he's vicious. That is the only time you see it. Supposedly, he's so mean to the main girl because his personality is cold and he's just goal-oriented and all this stuff. And they do kind of explain it in a way where he himself was saying, like, we do still have a brain, you know? We're not just going to automatically jump to violence. And that makes sense, and it's not like I expected him to jump to violence per se. But at the same time, it's like, because you know these two are supposed to end up together, they want as fast as possible to make them in a relationship because everybody wants to see the romance aspect. They want to see the, like, you know, you don't want to see them being like this because you want to get over here to the point where they're going to start kissing and all of this stuff. So it's like they skim through it, and it's like you almost start, like, why did you even bother trying to set them up this way if you're never going to live up to it? Wei Zhao lived up to it right off the bat. And this is where it's starting to, like, my sister and I were briefly talking about, like, morally gray characters and how insanely common they've become, and how tricky and how blurry and how this is. And most of the time, morally gray characters are not done well. Because, like my sister said, there are still lines. No matter how, like, certain things, once you do that, you're not morally gray anymore. You've gone black. You cannot claim they're morally gray anymore once they've crossed certain lines. That's not morally gray, that's black. And they need to knock it off. They need to repent. They need to turn away from that. Never do that again. And, like, you know, it's like the redemption of a bad guy. It's like, when you see bad guys, there are some really well done bad guys where they're like a horrible person. They've, like, murdered people and all this stuff. And yet, by the end of the story, you've seen them come out of that. They never want to do that again. They're, like, upset and horrified that they've ever done that before, and they realize how wrong it is and how bad it is, and they do everything they can to stay away from that from now on, and to, in some way, whatever way they can possibly do, make up for that. And this is, like, you know, the arc of a bad guy come out, like in that one right there, in Burning Flames. Him. A lot of stuff that happened with him. Like, most of his story's arc. This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. But then, like, the morally gray character and how it's tricky. I would say Wei Zhao is probably what you call a morally gray character. As far as I know, as far as I understand, he never murdered an innocent person. The closest he ever would have come is what he did to Jiang Ci. But this is the thing. The way they set him up, I have gone right off until I stopped explaining what the story was about and gone right into his character. This is the unique and what makes it so good. And this... Wei Zhao, right off the bat, like, everything he did to Jiang Ci in that tree, every single bit of that scene, the way she was reacting, the way he was reacting, what he did, why he did it, it all made so much sense. And I was like, oh, it pulled me right in and gripped me in, because I'm like, whoa, what is going on with this? And this is like, it backed up and explained why he's doing this, and it all fit so succinctly. It worked. This made sense that he'd be doing that. Even if he doesn't know who he is, his own life is on the line, and the life of this girl over here is on the line if Jiang Ci says anything. So it makes sense, in order to protect himself, and not just himself, but the lives of you find out there's a whole ton of spies that he's got going on, and if he's caught, all of these are going to get caught. Because you see, what happened with him, like I say, his entire city hates him and drove him out. Him and his sister got drove out. They became wanderers that were starving every day, could barely get any food because they're, like, they're barely hanging on to life because their city drove them out, and they're wandering around trying to look for a new home, trying to survive, and all of this stuff. And along the way, they were caught by soldiers and got ripped apart. And she got sent into the world of the I can't think of another word besides brothel. The entertainment business, that's it. She got pulled into the entertainment business. Not the nice kind of entertainment. And she ended up over there, and it I don't know how much of that is a spoiler, so, like, maybe we'll leave her for the moment, because she's not really in the scope of what I really want to talk about. Wei Zhao got sent into the world of the slave, what is it? The arena fighting. As a slave, he was put into the arena with like dozens of other people and handed a sword and survive if you can survive. It's up to you whether you live or die, because you're the one holding the sword and everybody else has got a sword too. You're all literally fighting to the death. So he has killed dozens and dozens and dozens of people just in order to survive, because he's been thrown into these horrible pits. And I guess I do have to go into the sister. And within her world, maybe I just won't tell you how, but she became the consort to the emperor of Liang. She told the emperor that she has a brother and she wanted to find him. And I don't know if it was they purposely found him. It kind of looks like it was by chance. She knew he was in the slave world. So they're watching this fight happening in the arena. And he's the only one that survived. And the minute she got a look at his face, she knew that was her brother. And she yelled his name. And he looked over, and the look on his face when he saw his sister. And he basically starts crying. I'm like, oh my gosh. But so the emperor takes him out of being a slave. And he becomes Wei Zhao is an official in the city for Liang now. The emperor has no idea who these two are. Their identities are completely hidden. Just before they got pulled apart, Wei Zhao told his sister that he no longer wants to go by his name. He wants to go by the name Wei Zhao. And so she heard that name and knew that name. That was like the last conversation they had, like minutes before they got pulled apart, was him telling her, I want to go by the name Wei Zhao now. And his whole goal, ever since he got driven out of Yulio, I'm sorry, I'm partly butchering that name, but anyway, once he got driven out of that place, his entire goal is to prove that his father was framed. He wants to prove that his father was not a traitor, that he's not the one that did what everybody thinks he did. One thing maybe even I didn't entirely understand at first was that he actually doesn't care about the city. He's become so bitter and so hurt by everything that happened that he doesn't. In a sense he doesn't, in a sense he doesn't. Maybe that's why I didn't quite understand. Because, like, the network of spies that he has within Liang now, they're all slaves from Yulio that he saved. From my understanding. They're all people that he saved out of slavery. So he obviously does still care in some kind of sense. Or he wouldn't be saving these people. Specifically these ones in particular. He's still saving them despite what they did to him. He's still pulling them out of slavery and saving them as best as he can. As many of them as he can, it seems. He's been working to save them. But at the same time, like, because the thing is, that city, once his father was labeled a traitor, the entire city now has to pay tribute to Liang, which means they have to send, like, I think money and maybe crops, but they have to send slaves over. Every single year, they have to send a bunch of their people to become slaves for Liang. So, like, they're very much under oppression and have been ever since Wei Zhao's father was labeled a traitor. And so Wei Zhao's entire goal is to prove that his father was innocent, and this is how the peace treaty got set up. Because the guy that came from Wei Zhao, the ambassador guy that came from Wei Zhao, he specifically found a way to make sure that this guy came, because it turns out that this guy was a witness back then, the only witness that Wei Zhao knows is still alive, to what happened with his father. Because the thing is, it was the emperor in Liang, he had a brother, and that brother died in Yulio, and Liang claims that it was Wei Zhao's father that killed him. That's why they're calling him a traitor and stuff, because they're saying he killed the prince of Liang. So the guy that came over, he was a witness to this, and Wei Zhao's entire goal is to get a hold of this guy and get the information out of him to find out what happened back then, because he doesn't even fully, like, he has no idea what actually happened back then. He's just utterly convinced that his father's not the one that did it. So he's trying to find out what happened. So, like, his goal is not to kill the guy. They call him an assassin. His goal is not to kill the guy. His goal is to get a hold of him while he's alive so that he can talk to him. Torture him to get the information out of him. Sure, he'll do that. But he wants him alive so that he can talk to him. Of course, Jiang Ci has no idea what's going on, and Wei Zhao doesn't know who she is, but that's the thing. That's the setup for what's happening with Wei Zhao at the moment. His life is in danger if Jiang Ci says anything. The life of the dancer over there that's trying to get a hold of the guy is in danger. And like everybody that works for Wei Zhao is in danger. And by this point, Wei Zhao has already lost a ton of people. You see a bin that he's got, dozens of people that he's already lost. They've already died for this cause to prove that his father's innocent. So like the weight of it is incredible on his shoulders. But like the fact that he is like they say that he's cold and hard and he'll do anything to do it, and even he says way later in the story, he says that his entire world was just full of hate. He was just full of hate and full of bitterness and full of like anger and resentment and all kinds of negative stuff. He was turned off. He was cold. He didn't care because by this point even his sister's not alive. She died of childbirth complications. I don't remember how many years ago. He has literally no family left. He has literally no home left because his home drove him out and his entire family was killed or died recently. He's got nobody and nothing. So that's what he's like. So it makes sense that he would go that far, that he would literally stab her in that tree to make her shut up because she won't stop talking. She won't stop, like, he's trying to protect his life and the life of the dancer at this moment is those two, and she won't stop. So it makes perfect sense that he'd do that. In all the other dramas, like, it's not like I want my good guy to do something that evil, because it's like, no matter how much sense it makes, it's still horrible that he did that to her, and I'm not trying to justify that he did that to her. It's just, when you tell me, like I say, this is a story, not real life, these things are a little bit different because it's a story. And the thing is, if you set up these lines and these parameters and tell me that this is what the setting is supposed to be, and then you don't live up to that while telling me the story, we've got a problem. So, like, when Lu Yi didn't quite live up to what you told me he was supposed to live up to, it was a little bit disappointing. I have to be honest, it was a little bit disappointing. So when Wei Zhao instantly, right off the bat, he lives up to what you told me that he was supposed to be, just the portrayal of what he's like when he comes on screen, and you understand that this is what he's supposed to be like, and that's the thing. His character through most of this story, there was an arc where you saw this is what he's like here, and this is what he's doing, and this is what he's capable of, and even if he doesn't want to lose people, like, there's a scene where people die, and he tried to give them an out because he's sick and tired of losing people. It hurts so much when he loses people. But, like, at the same time, once it comes to a certain point, there's certain things that he will not do, even if it means someone's gonna die, because he's got a bigger goal that he needs to get to. And that's more important, and all of this stuff. And even the people working for him understand that that's what's more important, so even they are willing to give their lives for it. And, like I say, there's a lot about this. This is not okay. It's not right. It's messed up. But at the same time, within this story, this is what you told me it's supposed to be like. So live up to it. And they were. And it was awesome. So it made it extremely unique and extremely, like, it drew me right in where it's like, you know, again, my sister and I kind of talked a little bit like enemies to friends. Regularly, they don't do it well. Quite often, this is a trope, an enemy to a friend. It's not done well. Because they don't stay within the lines they draw. They weren't really enemies to begin with. It was something stupid and petty and whatever. Like, it's not like Wei Zhao within the first few episodes almost kills Jiang Ci. There's 3 times where she nearly dies. Like, she was this close to death. At least twice. They claim it was 3 times. But there was at least twice where he was doing something. I mean, I guess there was the 3rd time because of what he was doing with the paper in the prison. He almost killed her there too. So there's like 3 times where she almost died. She was this close to death because of Wei Zhao. This close. And I'm like, that's not okay. That's not cool. But like, when you say enemies, in a sense, they weren't enemies because she wasn't actually trying to go against him. She was just trying to get out of there. None of this had anything to do with her. Like, it was completely, this has nothing to do with her. She just wants to leave. And he won't let her leave now because he saw the opportunity to use her to get something else. I haven't even talked about Pei Yan yet. Oh my gosh, this thing is like an hour long and I've barely said anything. I said so much and it's all so important, but at the same time, how many people are still watching this video? So, since I mentioned him, I better actually talk about Pei Yan now because that does kind of tie into it. Back to what the story is actually about. Pei Yan, I forget what kind of official he is. He's an official as well in the court and stuff. But like, he's the one that's in charge of the peace treaty at the beginning. He's the one that's in charge of making the peace happen between Wei and Liang. I totally forgot that they said that he'd been on the battlefield before, and he's like all the rest of the stuff. I totally forgot that he even said that. It's like, oh yeah, okay. He is known for being on the battlefield and his intelligence when it comes to battle and all this stuff. But anyway, the point is, he says near the beginning, I forgot about that too, the martial arts and all that stuff is part of this drama. He said that the assassin is basically on the same level as him, and there's very few people that are that good within the city. Wei Zhao and Pei Yan. So Pei Yan is the one that's in charge of the peace treaty, and so because everything goes sideways and falls apart during the peace treaty, thanks to Jiang Ci, Wei Zhao uses her to distract Pei Yan and everybody so that he and the dancer can get out of there. So Jiang Ci is literally tossed into the arms of Pei Yan, and Pei Yan realizes that if she was just tossed at him by the assassin, she might actually know something. So it's him that saves her life this first time that she almost died. He's the one that barely pulls her back from the brink so that she survives. His goal is to find out what she knows because he wants to know who the assassin is. So right off the bat, Pei Yan is using her. He doesn't care who she is or where she comes from either. Any care that he gives her, and the whole reason he saved her life is not because she's some poor innocent girl that got caught into this. It's because she's a witness and he wants information from her. Please remember that, because one of my big problems in this drama is Pei Yan. And what people say about him and what he claims for most of the drama. And he's the only one that ends up... Hold on. So right off the bat, he only saves her because she's the witness. And then he proceeds to use her to try to bait Wei Zhao, try to pull Wei Zhao out. He uses her as bait. She almost dies again. And through the process of this one, you find out, like, she needs a specific kind of medicine in order to survive this time because she's poisoned by something. This is the second time she barely survives. And part of the reason she barely survives this is because of Pei Yan. Because, and this could be considered a spoiler, but it's still within the first, 9 episodes, I think. Somewhere within the first 9. Less than 9, I think. It turns out there's this whole drama at the castle itself and all this stuff between Pei Yan and Wei Zhao and the crown prince and the other prince and all of this drama that happens in order to get the antidote. Turns out Pei Yan had it the whole time. You're set to believe that there was literally only one in the entire city, but it turns out there's another one that he has within his family, and he could have given it to her quite along, right off the bat, instantly, as soon as he found out that she was poisoned with this. But instead of saving her right off the bat, because he literally doesn't care about her, he wants the assassin. His goal is to find the assassin. So he's using this as well, her on her deathbed in pain. He's using this as bait to try to pull the assassin out, to try to trick him into revealing himself. So he saves her a second time, and here's the thing. I don't like Pei Yan. I don't like him in the slightest, because this is one thing that is very, 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 very common in Asian dramas, and specifically I think the Chinese are possibly the worst for it, the Chinese dramas, is their definition of love. Okay, I'm watching a drama called The 12 Legends right now, and that is the biggest reason that is the biggest thing that I hate about it, is their fast-paced romance stories. And this is something that the Asian dramas love to do. Like, they're obsessed with doing this. They are obsessed with claiming that we're all victims of our emotion. There's literally nothing we can do about it. It's fate. Like, there's 2 quotes within this story. 2 different women give Jiang Ci advice about romance. Both of them, I can't remember the quotes for either one of them, but both of them were so far off. I was so mad at both of them because what they said played into Jiang Ci's reaction to stuff, and I'm like, you freaking the worst advice ever. It was terrible. It was such a lie. Both of them were basically saying that it's all fate. You can't help it. Love and grudges and like all of these kinds of things. Are you flipping kidding me? It's got nothing to do with fate. We're not victims to our emotions. We're all victims to the emotion. You can't help who you love. It just comes over you and you just can't help it. There's nothing you can do about it. For one thing, yes, there is. For another thing, most of the time, when they claim something is love, that is not love. You don't know this person. You don't love them. Love is built, like, this is what drives me really insane. Some dramas, Chinese dramas, they go into all depth of explaining and showing and proving that they do know what real love is. Like in the, what's it called? The Fox Spirit Matchmaker Red Moon Pact, which I dropped. Anyway, in that one, someone specifically was saying you don't know much about love because, like, it's the push and pull and the building of the relationship and all this stuff. That's what makes it love and all of this stuff. It's the work that goes into it. Love is not just an emotion. There is emotion involved in love, but real love, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of dedication and it takes a lot of purposeful action. You're not a victim to real love. It is something you purposefully build and you purposefully hang on to and you work through because this person is so important to you. Like, there's many different kinds of loves, but I'm specifically talking about the romantic type of love. They are so wrong so often about, like, the real, actual, real love. And especially, like, the romantic love and all this stuff. There's such a thing as a crush. There's such a thing as a serious crush. There's such a thing as really liking someone. There's such a thing as a spark that's pulling you toward them. And sure, the spark that's pulling them toward you, so quite often we don't know what that is yet. We don't understand it and all of this stuff. But if you're not building on it and you're not going through things with these people and you're not working it out and you're not understanding and seeing and there isn't a full thing, it's not real, actual growing love. And, like, Pei Yan decides somewhere along the way that he loves Jiang Ci, and throughout the almost the entire drama, he's convinced he loves her, and in order to love her, he must protect her, which means he must force her to stay in his house. Like, it is unbelievable how twisted he gets. See, this is part of the thing. If it's real love, you're not going to use what you did for them against them. I saved your life. Why won't you repay me by staying with me? You call that love? That's got nothing to do with love, you self-centered, obsessed freak. He weaponizes it against her. And then it's like, oh, well, I already told the emperor that we were together, and to lie to the emperor is treason. We could lose our heads, so you better keep playing along with me. And then they go to this other place, and he's like, you need to stay in my room tonight. And she's like, what? Why would I stay in your room tonight? I'm going back to my room, thank you. And he's like, but you need to, because they all think that we're a couple, and if you don't stay here, they'll get suspicious, and I'll get in trouble. So I'm sorry about all this, but you really need to stay in my room tonight. And she goes, well, I guess you're right. Okay, I'll stay. I'm like, whoa. And his servants, of course, wholeheartedly believe him and are convinced that, like, he treats her so well and is so kind to her, and it's never been like this before. So he's clearly in love with her. So the entire drama, they are 100% convinced that it's love. He loves her. And it's just so sad that she can't understand how much he loves her. And here's the thing, too. It makes me mad when even Wei Zhao, all the way through it, it's like, you love her. I can see that you love her. So it's understandable that you're struggling. And it's understandable that you keep making mistakes. That's all it is mistakes. Because we all know you love her. So there's just some mistakes that we can't help making. But at the same time, you really should wake up and stop doing that, because it's not very nice. I'm like, if my cup wasn't full of liquid right now, I'd throw it at you. Oh, this is one of the things that, in case you can't tell, this works me up so bad. I get so worked up about this, so unbelievably worked up about this. It drives me insane. My brain cannot handle illogical things, and this is so illogical. How do so many people fall for this? Please explain how so many people fall for this. How can you possibly fall for the lie that he loves her? None of this is love. He finally, in episode 34, like I said, finally, in episode 34 out of 40 episodes, finally, something big enough happens. Finally, something huge enough, irreversibly upsetting and horrible enough happens to slap him in the face hard enough for him to finally realize that it was not love, it was obsession. Finally, he admits that, and I think that from then on, he lives up to that. I think there were some things where I'm like, still got some bad habits to work out there, dude. But I think from then on, finally, the problem is that it happened too late. Too many things about this drama were already frustrating me beyond belief. And therefore, even though I think finally he did have a turnaround, so maybe I don't actually hate him anymore. Maybe his character, I don't hate him. Maybe, but I still don't like him. It's like by this point, it's too little too late. By that point, it was too little too late because there was too much. And the thing is, he finally admitted it. Nobody else did. Like, Jiang Ci was trying to get it through to him. You cannot get more clear. She rejected him so many times I lost count. She made it so crystal clear. No, your home is not my home. I do not want to marry you. Let me go. She ran away from him and she pushed him away and she backed away physically, verbally, every aspect about her. She made it very, 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 very clear that he needs to get out. And yet he wouldn't. I think in a sense she was being too nice because he kept weaponizing his kindness toward her. I saved your life. And she goes, I know. And I will forever be grateful for that. But back off. And in a sense, I think she was too nice to him. But in another sense, maturity and like, you know, I get it. It's complicated. But even Wei Zhao. I get it. I totally understand because I'm the same. No, you're not the same, Wei Zhao. It's not the same. And anybody within the story or fans watching the story that tries to claim that Wei Zhao and Pei Yan are the same when it comes to loving her, you're wrong. It is not the same. The way that Wei Zhao handled it and the way that Pei Yan did it, Wei Zhao is someone that loved her and made a ton of mistakes. Pei Yan did not love her. There was a spark of something, perhaps, but he instantly twisted that, and everybody's like, love makes you do bad things sometimes. No. Lines, people. Wei Zhao made some really bad mistakes and all of this stuff, but he had real, genuine love for her. That was real, genuine love, what he had, and he made some stupid mistakes along the way because of other things that were happening. And, Pei Yan, that was not love. That was obsession. And in a way, I think because of Pei Yan's relationship with his mother and what his mother was doing, his relationship with his mother is terrible, horrible. It is all domestic. With Wei Zhao, it wasn't just domestic. It went way beyond that. Like I say, he was a slave, literally fighting and killing people in order to survive and all of this stuff. It was way bigger than just within his family. So there's even a difference in the way they grew up and the result of what they're doing. Like, his character came off way more selfish than Wei Zhao. And I don't think I'm just being biased. Because the thing is, in a sense, Wei Zhao had way less options. He didn't have to push forward with the whole belief that his father was a traitor. He could have just let all of that go, and he probably would have lived a happier life if he had. So in a sense, like, in that way, it was him that brought this all on himself. In another way, he was trying to free the city, and how are you supposed to free the city if you can't prove that the whole reason that they're in this mess is a lie? If he can prove that it's a lie, the whole city and everybody within it would be free. So if he doesn't work toward proving this is a lie, they are never going to be free, and it's going to keep getting worse. Because even old people and children are suddenly being sent as slaves as well, because they're running out of people to send for slaves. So in a sense, he trapped himself into this. In another sense, he didn't. Pei Yan, in a sense, because of everything that happened, some of it was kind of out of his control, but to me, way more of it was within his control. And like, he just chose the stupidest actions and the most self-centered obsession actions to make it worse. Because like, he claimed that he loved Jiang Ci, but the minute that he said he loved her and wanted to be with her, because of his mother's reaction being so violently against it, that, I believe, is what pushed him to become even more obsessed and insist on it being Jiang Ci. Why did it have to be Jiang Ci? Literally, why did it have to be Jiang Ci? When she herself made it so clear that she has no interest in this. To me, the way it came across when I was watching this drama, I feel like it was like 80%, at least 80%, purely because he was going against his mother. He was trying to set his foot down and be what he wanted to be and get what he wanted to have for the first time in his life. And so, because his mother made it clear that she didn't want Jiang Ci there in his life, that pushed him into becoming obsessed and refusing to let go no matter what anybody, including Jiang Ci, said. It wasn't love. It was entirely self-centered motivation of obsession. He was bent on going against his mother's will because he was tired of following his mother's will. Does this make sense? That is what I saw when I was watching it. And the thing is, stuff like this happens, but regularly in stories, they don't admit that. They have characters like even Wei Zhao himself and even Jiang Ci. People don't call it out for what it is. They go, nope, it's just love and he's just making some mistakes because you can't help it when you're in love. That is not what was going on. It was something completely different, and he finally, in episode 34, he finally nailed at least some of it. He didn't say that the aspect of fighting against his mother was necessarily there, but like, watch the drama, people. That's what it was. That was not love for Jiang Ci. It was okay, that was my whole problem with Pei Yan, and this is what I'm saying is something that this is one of the I've seen this 1,000 times things where they have this thing where like these two people, the way the story tries to portray it, they're the same. There's two men that love the same woman, and in the end she needs both of them in order to survive because this guy has this kind of power and influence and this guy has this power and influence, and they both love her, therefore they're both going to work together, and it's them as a team together that can save her. I'm getting really tired of that. Because, like I say, 98% of the time, it is not two guys that love her. It is one guy that loves her, and one guy that's freakishly obsessed with himself, not her, but everybody within the drama and everybody within the story and everybody, like, whatever, pretends that they're the same thing and that they both equally love her and it's all equal and it's all the same thing when it's not. Please, stop doing that. Stop it. That destroys the story when you can't admit it. Like, what's it called? I forget that one. I'll put the name up here because I can't remember what it's called. But there's the Korean drama and was it Japanese? It did the same story. I can't remember which one of them was the original. That is one example that comes to mind where there's two people that love her because, like, she is a girl and yet she dresses up as her twin brother and pretends to be a guy. Okay, so the guitarist, I think it is, finds out very quickly that she's actually a girl, and he protects her from the shadows, and he has this feelings for her and all this stuff. But then the singer finally eventually feels out, and the problem is that she all along has been focused on the singer because she likes the singer right off the bat. She has no idea that the guitarist likes her because his way of protecting her is to keep the secret. So he never lets her know that he knows that she's a girl. So this is the kind of the same sort of kind of thing where you have two guys protecting the girl. This is the kind of trope that I'm talking about where there's two guys protecting the girl. At least in that one, like, I hated that too because, like, it's a love triangle and but at least in that one, it actually was more equal. Both of them went through things together with her, and there is a sense of both of them did actually care about her in a way that could easily, if it wasn't quite yet, it was blooming romance. Like, they really did love her, and there was an equalness to it. The sad and upsetting thing is that in a love triangle, there's three of you. Two of you are going to like each other. Two of you are going to end up together, and it's going to be mutual, and there's one that's going to get excluded. Because you can't have a mutual in two different directions. It's impossible. But that one is when that's an example of it is actually more equal, where they did actually both care about her. Both of them were being a lot more selfless. Like, it is possible to do something like that correctly, but in the Chinese dramas especially, because they're obsessed with the thought that emotions control us and that we're all victims and there's nothing we can do about it, and they're obsessed with calling things love that are not love. And they're claiming that it's love that gets all messed up and twisted up into hatred and all this, and it's because of love. And I'm like, no, it's not. The love did not do that. Real, genuine love does not do that. The selfishness does that. The bitterness does that. The anger does that. The self-righteousness does that. That is not love that does this. Love does not possess. Love does not obsess. That is your self-centeredness. That is your everything else. That is not the love. Stop claiming that love does this. It doesn't. That is not true, genuine, actual, honest love. So that is one thing that I say that I've seen a million times. It's too predictable. The whole, I leave her in your hands now, take care of her for me. In this one, like I say, maybe by that point I can say okay, because I think maybe Pei Yan did change because he realized how wrong he was, and it seems like he was like sorry for that and intended to never do that again and to just back off because he realized that he was wrong. So maybe it doesn't bother me as much in this story. But, like, I can't remember. There was another story. I swear there was another one where they did the same thing, where it's like, I leave her in your hands now. And I'm like, that made me so mad because that person that was, I don't remember what it is, so I'm sorry, this is probably really confusing, but there was another one that I watched where it's like, I leave her in your hands now and you're the one that's going to take care of her because I know that you love her and there's nobody else that will take care of her the way you do. And I'm like, no. Because the person that she got left in the hands of did not repent yet, did not, like, they were still in the state of believing that they loved her when that was not love. But because I don't remember what drama that is, I legit can't remember what one that was. I kind of almost feel like it might have been a Jialun one, but it can't be because I don't remember. But anyway. So this is one of the aspects that I'm saying I'm sick and tired of seeing. Another aspect of that I'm sick and tired of seeing, there's at least two more. This is insanely long. I cannot believe how long this is.